Hi there, I'm Rod Bergeron, and today we're going to work on another quick and easy watercolor painting. We're going to sort of work towards making some hills way off in the distance. We're going to work on making some hills way off in the distance today. And so I've wet the, from about halfway mark down to about a little bit less than 1/3. And I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to put it into this blue, and we're going to make a couple of streaks across here. This blue is ultramarine deep. Now I'm not going to rinse this brush out. I'm going to pick up some Payne's gray, and I'm going to put some Payne's gray a little bit off the line that I have put in here. So I'm just tapping this along here, trying to release some paint from the brush and just letting it bleed to wherever it is it's going to bleed from. I'm going to take this, bleed to I should say. I'm going to take this brush with the Payne's gray on it, just make a couple of swipes across there like that. Okay, again, I'm not going to rinse this brush out. I'm going to pick up some of the sienna that I have here and just do that across there. You can hear that scratchy kind of noise. That tells you that you're putting fairly dry paint onto the page, and that's what I'm going for here. All right, so I'm going to pick up a little bit more of this sienna right off the palette onto here, make it a little bit more intense. Okay, again, I'm not going to rinse this brush out, but I'm going to put it in my water and pull it right back out. And I'm going to make a little bit of a swoop across there. And I see all those colors started to mix together as soon as I did that. That's enough water to allow the colors to mix together. Now I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to put it right onto my yellow ochre. And I'm just going to touch it in a few places and allow that yellow ochre to all mix together. All right, I'm going to rinse that brush off and pick up some more Payne's gray, but I'm going to make it a little bit more intense this time. Okay, and I'm going to tap it along here a little bit more intensely. So it should push that, it should make it look like that other line is further back and this all mixes together. Again, I'm going to pick up a little bit more Payne's gray and allow that all to mix in there. And again, no more water, just strictly into the color, just like that, okay? And again, we're going to let all this just bleed together and do its own thing. Don't try to influence it too much. All right, I'm going to pick up some more Payne's gray. All right, and then you've probably seen me do this before. This is my #1 watercolor brush, and I've just sharpened one end of it. And I'm going to go to where this Payne's gray is, and I'm just going to drag a few lines out of that Payne's gray to create some brush or small trees in the foreground. Okay, I'm going to continue with the Payne's gray. I'm going to pick up more Payne's gray now. No more water, so this would be very dry. And I'm going to tap this right along my wet line there. And hopefully what that's going to do is it's going to be much more intense. You can do it some more if you want. It's going to be much more intense, and it's going to make that first line look like it's way, way further back. And if we get any of the second line, which it looks like that's sort of overpowering that second line, that's okay. We're just going to let that continue doing whatever it is it's going to do. I'm going to rinse my brush off really, really well, and I'm going to pick up a whole bunch of yellow ochre, okay? So in one swoop, we're going to go from one side to the other, okay? Just like that. Okay, and that's not super intense, so we're going to take some more yellow ochre, just tap it into a few places like that. Okay, again, we're going to go, I'm not going to rinse this out. I'm going to go to my sienna. Just touch a few places like that with the sienna. Try to get some more intense color onto the page. Just be patient with it. keep going back to this sienna. This is quite wet, so you'll be able to work with it for quite a while. I'm going to take my tool again and just create some more. Some more lines in there, and you can see how that's all starting to mix together. Super nice in there. I think I'm going to take this brush and I'm just going to touch it into my Payne's Gray one more time across the bottom there. All right, one more thing I want to do with you. I want to pick up some blue fairly intensely, and we're going to drop some blue into a few places like that. Now the blue is sort of counterintuitive because you would think, you know, is there really space in here for the blue? But that blue should mix in with some of that yellow ochre, and it should give us some, you know, some nice highlighted kind of areas without us having to do too much work with it. I think that's probably pretty good. If you wanted to, you could always grab a little bit of salt and drop a little bit of salt in a few places. And you see that blue starting to mix in with that Payne's Gray right there. I'm just going to drop a little bit of salt here and a little bit of salt here and here. All right. Okay, let's let this all mix together. Don't try to do too much with it. And let's see what we get. Okay, I want you to notice a few things here. This first line of Payne's Gray that I put in here went way back into the background. So, and it still kind of looks like trees because you have all these little peaks that are coming off it. And then I put in a second one, and it's a little bit gray back there, but the front one sort of overpowered it. I might not have waited long enough, but it's still a pretty good effect. Look at the sky here, where this is where I touched the page first. Okay, but you can see where I left the, you know, I did one stroke and then I did another stroke, and where I left the space in between them, you get this nice white line that alludes to, you know, a moving sky or clouds or whatever in the background. So that turned out really well. And the other thing I want you to notice here is I dropped salt in a couple of places, and those places I dropped the salt in kind of really have some really cool effects in them. The other thing I want you to notice is where I scribed. So I scribed here out of the Payne's Gray, and you get black lines. And I scribed here out of the sienna, and you get red lines. Again, here I scribed out of the sienna, or out of the Payne's Gray, and I got darker lines. So the color that you scribe out of will dictate the lines that you end up with at the end. And when you put the mat on it, you get a pretty interesting little painting. All right, I hope you learned something today. If you're currently a subscriber, thank you very much. And if you're not currently a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you again next time.